Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on Disney Plus, and I'm here with Bonnie, who worked on Prom Pact, which is obviously available right now on Disney Plus around the world. So thank you so much for joining us. Could you give us a bit of a brief introduction to what Prom Pact is all about?
So basically, it's kind of a love story, but it's about Peyton, who plays Mandy, and she starts off being a strong feminist character. It's a bit of a love story. She, in actuality, wants very desperately to get into Harvard, and she finds a way to actually talk with Graham Lansing to get his father to write a letter to Harvard, but then she ends up falling in love, becomes love story in that way. And then she finds out that, Harvard isn't the only thing that's important to her, that real life is more important to her as well.
So what was your role on Prom Pact?
It was a pretty big show, actually, high school teen drama, but it had a whole bunch of different things. Like it had all the 80s promposals, it had the pep rally, it had all the 80s themes, it had the prom, it had like a fundraiser in it. It was a massive movie.
In the film, Peyton, she has some incredible dresses. Which one was your favorite one kind of creating?
I'm going to say the prom dress, because that took a lot of work. It was actually, going from inspiration of all the 80s, because of course, if you saw the movie, you realize that they're the only ones who dress up in 80s, even though the theme of it is 80s. So I took inspiration, because I love the 80s, from like a lot of different characters, like mostly Cyndi Lauper for her dress, from one of her videos. And then Anya, the director, helped me out with that, with the color scheme. And then it went from, this mass of like ideas down to that one singular. And I got the fabric from the US, because I had to find like the perfect fabric that was, from the 80s, like the taffeta that everyone used to wear in the 80s. I don't know if you ran in the 80s, but
Yes.
everything was taffeta back then. And it made a lot of noise, but it was the epitome of 80s for me, finding that fabric. And then even for Ben, I had his whole outfit was built by an Italian tailor that was in Vancouver, and I same thing, ordered the fabric from a couple of different places to get the perfect fabric, the perfect brocade. And that's actually a throwback to the Pretty in Pink, the Ducky character.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about Milo's suit, because it did look pretty impressive. Because obviously, most of the time, people turn up in just like basic suits. So I did really enjoy seeing Milo's suit in it. So where did your inspiration come from for like obviously you had to work on a few different things of the 80s on that section, but also with the high school. Where did that all come from?
From the high school, I looked at like real American high schools, and the typical like the Letterman jackets and everything. And so we built a whole bunch of Letterman jackets, and we even had swag with like the school name on it and everything, and tried to place it, all around to make it look real, because that's the whole thing of like doing a teen movie and a Disney movie is making the reality, and that not having anything stand out that doesn't look real. So then it kind of takes you away from the storyline, I think.
And also, like you said, there was like a big like not even a pro, but a sort of a fundraiser where you kind of got to dress her up very differently. How did it compare to doing obviously the main prom dress?
That one, Peyton actually helps out with that a bit as well, because what I like to do is when I do the boards and when I do the ideas for the visuals, I was in collaboration with the producers and with the director, who was super supportive of me, and also Peyton. And then she had some ideas of what she wanted to wear for the fundraiser, to kind of take her out of the character that she was with, the logo T-shirts and everything, and then changing her to be like a wow moment of when we first see her, and she looks totally stunning in that. And so I wanted her to stand out a little bit at the fundraiser, and she did. Like she looked amazing in that dress. Like Couldn't have asked
Yeah,
for
it was
more.
it was definitely a very you know, when I was watching it over the weekend, you know, it was like, well, okay, that's, you know, she looked completely different, especially just having seen her in other shows and stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. So what was your biggest highlight working on Prom Pact?
Highlight was, I guess I'm a huge fan of the 80s. So working with Anya, you know, and making her vision a reality and doing all those promposals, you know, like all the 80s movies that we all know and love, and doing the throwbacks to those and having those in the background of everything. Like in every scene that there was in the movie, it was like there was, you know, a million things that went into play to make the whole movie work together. So I guess my thing of the movie was that I got to do an 80s movie, and I love that. So basically mixing 80s movies with the whole prom, with, you know, everything. I'm just grateful that I got to work on it.
That's cool. And how did it differ from working on some of the other shows and movies that you've worked on? Because I was going through your resume earlier, and there was a few like different ones, like obviously like Rocky Horror, and you worked on X-Men. So kind of, how did it differ doing this one?
Um, well, because on Rocky Horror, I was ACD, assistant costume designer, and then I did set for like a really long time, like 12 years working on set, and I got to work on X-Men 2 and 3, and oh my God, that was like one of the best experiences ever. And then I gradually worked into costume designing because my background is in fashion design, and this was just, I mean, I've done a lot of things in the past, but this one was one of my favorites because I got to live out the dream of working on a Disney show. That's a big dream of mine, because you know everybody's a Disney fan, but I've been a fan since I was a kid, and so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, no, it was, and one of the things I loved about the film, it was very kind of, you know, it in some ways it was a little bit like stereotypical in some ways, but at the same time it kind of changed it around a little bit. So I'm going to ask the question. I ask this to everyone, and I'm going to disallow Prom Pact. But what has been your favorite Disney Plus show or movie so far?
What's been my favorite Disney movie? I mean, I love all Disney movies. My favorite one of recent has got to be Cruella. Love that movie. And I love
Yeah.
the fact that the costume designer did like a throwback to the whole punk rock thing. For me, I love that part of it. And it was just, the whole thing was just incredible.
Yeah, I mean that, especially like with it set in the rocks with the and sort of UK and stuff. I love Cruella as well, and it definitely looks pretty cool. But as I say, thank you so much for taking your time out to speak today. Obviously, you can check out Prom Pact right now on Disney Plus. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you guys soon. Later.